You- Okay, so let's start the seminar. Good morning, everyone, and good morning from Vietnam. Welcome to HSC today, and welcome to our seminar, Vietnam Key Investment Themes and Stock Selection. Today, we will together discover the investment opportunities in Vietnam in 2025 and 2026. And before we get started, let me introduce our speakers. My name is Phu Nguyen. I am an account manager at HSC. I have 7 years of experience in investment advisory, and I am also get certified by the CFI as a financial planner and wealth management professional. Joined with me today is Mr. Tin Vo, wealth manager at HSC. He has over 10 years of experience in investment advisory, and he is also an expert in banking sector. He will guide us through the banking sector section and the monetary policy. And finally, our special guest, Mr. Tung Dao, investment analysis and advisory manager. He is also an expert with several years of experience in investment advisory, and he will join us in the Q&A section and help us to answer all of your questions. So now let's get started. My presentation today will include 3 main sections. The first section is the key investment themes and recommendation. I will talk about the public investment and government spending. Next, I will talk about the new trading system and potential market upgrade. And then I'll talk about and then Mr. Tin Vo will talk about the expansionary monetary policy and banking sector. Lastly, I will give you some other recommendations. And the second section is the Q&A section, where Mr. Tung Dao will answer all of your questions. So let's go straight into the point. Let's talk about the public investment. So in 2025, the Vietnam government target 8% of GDP growth and double-digit growth in the next 5 years. That is a very ambitious target. And how can Vietnam achieve that target? So we all know that Vietnam is an export-driven economy. And during the last 10 years, Vietnam average GDP growth was just 6.8 to 7.2%. So how can Vietnam achieve 8% in 2025, especially when the global trade is being so volatile and so uncertain during the Trump presidency? We know that Vietnam is very fragile and likely to be imposed some tariffs from Trump, right? And the trade and commercial activities of Vietnam may not be solid in this year. And we will talk about that during the Q&A section. But how can Vietnam achieve that ambitious target? So in 2025, Vietnam government decided to not rely on external factor, not rely on exports anymore. So Vietnam government decided to boost the internal demand of the country through the public investment. So a record high public investment budget of $31 billion, which is equivalent to 6.4% of GDP, was allocated for 2025. And this record high public investment budget is allocated to transportation infrastructure. And I will talk about that in the next slide. And then let's look at the second graph here. We can see that Vietnam has a lot of room to improve, to increase the public investment, because currently Vietnam public debt to GDP ratio is currently quite low, providing an ample opportunity for the government to enhance the public investment via issuing new debt. So here is the ceiling, the limit of the public debt on GDP ratio. It is 65%, and the current debt to GDP ratio is only 37%. So Vietnam has a lot of room to borrow, to issue new debt and finance the public investment infrastructures. Okay, next slide. So let's look at the transportation infrastructure of Vietnam. This is the Vietnam's expressway map. So in the last 10 years, Vietnam successfully built 2,100 kilometers of expressway. But in solely this year, in 2025, Vietnam plans to build 1,200 new kilometers of expressway. So it's 50% of the existing expressway that Vietnam has successfully built in the last 10 years. So you can imagine how much Vietnam is spending on the transportation infrastructure. And after the completion of these expressway, Vietnam will have a robust transportation system that connects the whole country from the north to the south and improve the logistic, transportation, tourism, and other industrial activities. Moreover, Vietnam will connect with China through this expressway system, and the transportation of goods from the south and the middle of Vietnam to China, which is Vietnam's second largest export market and the largest import market. So China is a very important trade partner of Vietnam. And after the completion of this expressway system, the trade activities between Vietnam and China will improve. And in the next 3 or 5 years, Vietnam also plans to build a high-speed railway system from the south to the north to connect with China, to improve the trade activity with China. And also, if we look at the green star here in the south of Vietnam, it is the Long Thanh International Airport, which is a 16 billion project. It's the largest airport of Vietnam, and it is being built on time. So after the completion of all these projects, the transportation system in Vietnam will improve a lot, and it will have a giant leap forward to create the momentum for a double-digit growth cycle in the next 5 years. So let's talk about the beneficiaries of public investment. We firmly believe that the construction material, construction, and banking sectors will benefit from public investment. And we recommend the market leader in each sectors who have strong competitive advantages and the advantages in bidding for key projects and also have strong financial health and good company management. So we recommend buying HPG Hòa Phát Group. We also recommend buying the state-owned bank, and we prefer CTG Vietinbank. We also think that the industrial parks and residential real estate will benefit eventually when the transportation system nearly complete. So we recommend buying IDC, Ideco Corporation, and NLG, Nam Long Investment Corporation. And lastly, we recommend buying the energy infrastructure and oil and gas company, PVS, Petro-Vietnam Technical Services. And among these 5 names, I want to stress out HPG and PVS. So let's talk about HPG first. Beside benefiting from the public investment projects, HPG also has a lot of midterm and long-term catalysts for growth. HPG is now benefiting from several tariffs and several anti-dumping duties from Vietnam and other trade partners. In February, the U.S. government, Trump imposed a 25% tariffs on all steel products that imported to the United States. So now HPG products is competing equally with the products of the U.S. allies, and that create a huge price competitiveness for HPG. And also HPG is also benefiting from Vietnam and European Union anti-dumping duties on the hot rolled coil imported from Vietnam, from China and India. So the European Union is imposing an anti-dumping duty on China's products and Vietnam products, except for HPG. So it has a lot of near-term catalysts to growth, and it also has a short-term catalyst that I will talk about that in the next section. And the second name is PVS. I want to say that PVS is a hidden gemstone, because when people talk about public investment, people only talk about the investment in transportation infrastructure. But how about energy infrastructure, right? We all know that Vietnam is short on electricity. For every 1% of GDP growth, Vietnam needs 2% of electricity consumption. So electricity consumption is growing twice as much as the GDP growth. So if Vietnam is targeting 8% to 10% GDP growth in the next 5 or 6 years, Vietnam will need 20% of electricity growth. And so Vietnam must invest in the energy infrastructure. That will be very solid. So now Vietnam is building national project that is the Block D Ô Môn thermal gas plant in the south of Vietnam, and PVS is the early winner in that project. And last but not least, PVS is the market leader in the offshore wind energy. So it has already secured some huge projects, which worth $4 billion, $4 billion in the next 5 years. And the total potential projects of PVS may hit $8 billion in the next 5 years. So it is equal to the investment of the whole system of infrastructure of transportation infrastructure of Vietnam. So we strongly recommend buying PVS. All right, so that wraps up my first section on public investment, and we have spent around 20 minutes on the first. So the second section will be very concise. I will talk about the new trading system, KRX, and the potential market upgrade. So if you are a foreign investor or if you are new to Vietnam stock market, you must be wondering, what is KRX? What exactly is KRX? Why is it important? Why is it a key investment theme this year? So KRX is a modern trading system, a modern exchange system developed by the Korean exchange, developed by the Korean Stock Exchange. And this system is very modern. It is designed to execute trading orders more accurately, more quickly, and more securely. So when KRX is launched, Vietnam stock market trading volume is expected to increase significantly, and also it will introduce some new financial products, such as the option on index or the new future contracts, and shorten the payment cycle, the payment period. So now the payment period is 2.5 days, and it is expected to be shortened to 2 days, and then 0 day in the near future. KRX is expected to go live on May 2025. Well, actually, it's not expected. It is 99% to launch on May. And after the launching of KRX in September 2025, FTSE will upgrade the Vietnam stock market to emerging market. And then in 2026, Vietnam stock market is probably added to the MSCI watch list for emerging markets. And by the end of next year, Vietnam stock market is expected to be upgraded to MSCI emerging market. So how will these events affect the Vietnam stock market? Firstly, we think that the trading volume of the stock market will increase. And secondly, we think that the reputation of Vietnam stock market will also improve, and that will attract some new FII capital flow of foreign investors into Vietnam stock market. So in 2025 and 2026, we recommend buying the broker companies. We recommend buying HCM and SSI for their largest market share in foreign institutional transactions. And recommend buying HBG because when the market is upgraded to emerging market, HBG will benefit from the capital flow of the new capital flow of foreign investors because currently HBG account for a large percentage of the ETFs in Vietnam. So if the foreign investors invest in the Vietnam stock market through the ETFs, they will mostly invest in HBG. So this is also a short-term catalyst of HBG to support the stock price in the near term. And lastly, we also recommend buying the VN Diamond stocks, especially the companies which have high potential growth in 2025 and 2026. These companies are also expected to benefit from a fresh money flow of foreign investors because, we see that most of these names have the foreign ownership limit. So it is quite difficult for foreign investors to acquire large quantities of these names. So if you are a foreign investors, you may invest in the VN Diamond ETF instead. So you invest in VN Diamond ETF as a proxy so that you can own all of these names instead of buying these 7 names. So, okay, that wraps up my second part about the KRX trading system and potential market upgrade. Now, please welcome to the stage Mr. Tín Vo, Wealth Manager of agency and banking sector expert. Mr. Tín, please share your thoughts about monetary policy.
Thank you, Mr. Phú, and welcome to Ho Chi Minh Security Corporation. I'm Tín. I'm the wealth manager of Ho Chi Minh Security. So, as you hear about Phú talk before, and we have the GDP growth rate of 8% and more, but we opened the year of 2025 with some challenge like the US tariff, the slower trade, and the Ukraine of the war. So, but the VN Index increased from 1,230 to 1,330, over 100 points. We see that it is very positive in Vietnam. And to get more of 8% in GDP growth rate in this year, the State Bank of Vietnam will have the credit growth target of 16%. We can easily calculate here the double time of the GDP growth rate. And with some data very positive, that is we control the inflation. We have the CPI of February 2025 around 3.3%, and it's slightly down from 3.7% in last year. We have the retail sale of 95%, and it's increased more from 8% in last year. We have the FDI strong, and the disbursement of 35%, and the commitment is 5%. As you know, the FDI strong, it helps Vietnam Dong to stay stable with the USD, and it is the commitment of the foreign investor in Vietnam economy. We have the stock market capitalization around $300 billion. It's around half of the credit balance, around $600 billion, and around 70% of the GDP. As you see that the stock market capitalization is $300 billion. It is half. So in this year, 2025, the credit balance increased from $600 billion to $700 billion, increased 16%. So the stock market will be supported. This is the 20 and 25 target of 15%. It is the highest of the credit growth rate in the recent year. So move on to the next. And with that reason, so we choose a lot of corporate banking here. We have ACB, BIDV, Vietinbank, SG Bank. We have a lot of bank here. We cover it. But in my opinion, I choose VB Bank, SG Bank, and Techcombank because it is the highest NIM in the banking system. In here, you can see very clearly that VB Bank had increased 85% in 20 and 24, and SG Bank increased 28%. The Techcombank increased 20%. And we have some story of the bank. With SG Bank, we have the story of the strategic shareholder in this year. With the Techcombank, we have the TCBS IPO. And with the VB Bank, we have the valuation very cheap right now. So, and to be clear, this is the reason why I choose 3 stocks. With the SG Bank, we have a return on equity around 25%. That is the commitment of this bank to the market because over the 5 year, 10 year, they increase around return on equity over 20% year over year. The profit before that in 20 and 25 is $800 million and increased 25% year over year. They take the Vicky Bank. Vicky Bank is the name after the Đông Á Bank. When they take from Yerodong, when the SG Bank they take the Vicky Bank, they have the increase 49% of the foreign room, and they look for the strategic shareholder, and they have the license. And as you know, in Vietnam right now, we cannot open a bank. So a license of the bank is very, very valuable. And with the foreign room increase to 49% like VB Bank, they can look for the strategic shareholder with the high price. Example, when they find a strategic, like in VB Bank, SMBC is the strategic shareholder, and when they buy a stock of VB Bank, they buy at the $35,000. At that time, the stock market, the stock price of the VB Bank is $20,000. So it increased like the double price. So SG Bank will have the room for the price to increase. To VB Bank. VB Bank had the highest NIM. The NIM, right here, NIM is the net interest margin. To example, you go to the bank and deposit at 5%, and the bank loan to their customer to 9%. So you will have the NIM is around 4%. So VB Bank has the highest NIM in the banking system. And the profit before that in 20 and 25 around $1 billion, increased 25%. They have the FX credit, and the FX credit after transformation, they increased to 5 billion Vietnam dong. And they have the dividend yield high. Like in the 20 and 24, they They pay the dividend 1,000 dong when the market price is 19,000 dong. So the dividend yield around more than 5%. And the Techcombank, they have some key, I like it, like the Hybrid CASA. CASA is the current account and saving account that they have to Techcombank to the lowest cost of fund, around 3.3%. They have Maturai Home and they have the TCBS story of the IPO in this year. TCBS is the king of bond in Vietnam. So Ho Chi Minh Security Corporation, we have the research room and we see that DB Bank now is 19.5 thousand and the target price we evaluate is 23,000 and upside is 18%. The second bank we have here, close price of the recent day is 27.3 thousand and the target of SSC research is 31,000, increase 13%. And the SG Bank is the close price 23 and now we have the target is 27,000 and we have the upside is 17%. They all have the story in this year and in my opinion, the banking sector will be increased very, very strong in this year. So I like it and I'm very strong recommendation you to buy the bank in Vietnam in today. So thank you so much and we move to the next part.
Okay, thanks, Mr. Tin, for your sharing on monetary policy and banking sectors. So how do you feel about the banks? How do you feel about the banks? Okay, very positive. So we have talked about the main investment themes, three main investment themes that are macro investment themes. And besides that, we think there are some other potential story, other sectors of these stocks, so that we want to we also want to recommend you to invest in these stocks in 2025 and longer term. So we will use a bottom-up approach and select just a few companies that have strong fundamentals and interesting stories and cheap valuations to screen out these 5 names. All right, the first name is FPT, which is the best technology company in Vietnam and likely the only choice of foreign investors when invest in Vietnam technology sector. So how FPT is benefiting from the macro economy, from the macro trends. FPT has a very strong talent pool and it has many sectors that are focusing on high growth. And they also benefiting from the government's strategies on developing the semiconductor sectors and improve the digital infrastructure and human capital development. So these catalysts will bring a lot of benefits to FPT in the next 2 or 3 years. And FPT is also growing on digital exchange and the AI trend. Although the stock is experiencing a short-term sell-off of the AI and technology stocks, however, we think that the sell-off is just a short-term, and we recommend buy when stock weaken, buy the dip. The second name is DGC, Đức Giang Chemicals. So Đức Giang Chemicals is the largest yellow phosphorus and likely the largest chemical producer in Vietnam. And the core product of DGC is yellow phosphorus, which is a very important ingredient of semiconductor manufacturing. DGC is the main supplier of semiconductor manufacturers in Asia, except China. And this position helped DGC to grow on the very hot industry, semiconductor. And also, DGC is also actively developing and increasing their capability, their product capability by acquiring new factories and open new factories and open some new lines of products. So besides yellow phosphorus, DGC is also producing other chemicals such as alcohol or sulfuric acid, and batteries. They are also the main suppliers of Vietnam electric vehicles company, VinFast. This stock is a large ancillary play on the global semiconductor industry. And although this stock is a chemical company, but it is a technology play. So I want to highlight FPT and DGC for technology play. And my last three names are consumer and retail companies. Masan Group, MSN, Mobile World Group, MWG, and P&J. So on in all, we forecast Vietnam consumption demand to recover in 2025. In the first and second quarter, the recovery will likely be mild, around 8% in the first quarter and second quarter. But the consumption demand will recover and increase significantly in the third quarter and the fourth quarter of 2025 and continue to grow in 2026. We are forecasting these to grow from 20% to 50% per year on average. So, all right. So that wraps up our presentation on investment themes and stock selections. We know that you have a lot of questions, and let's move to the Q&A section. And we will have like 3 to 5 minutes break for you to send a question to our staff, and also comment your questions below for our experts to prepare for the answers. So please join our community on LinkedIn and on WhatsApp to send your question to our experts. And also we will send you any update on the sectors and the stocks that we mentioned during our presentation. So please scan the QR code to join our communities and stay updated. All right, we will have 3 to 5 minutes break, and please send your questions to our expert. And I will see you after 5 minutes. seminar. All right, so 5 minutes break is out. So let's get back to our seminar. All right, so we have received a lot of questions from the comments section and from one question from WhatsApp community, and we also have a lot of questions in the registration forms. So let's start with some question. All right. Before we start the Q&A section, please welcome Mr. Tung Dao, Investment Analysis and Advisory Manager.
Hello, everyone. It is my pleasure to join this seminar, and I hope that we will have an exciting Q&A session. So we should start, and we can start now, Mr. Wu. Thank you for the introduction.
Okay. So let's start with a question about a very hot stock, FPT. Why is FPT falling, and is the company's prospect still solid? And I own FPT in my portfolio. What should I do?
Yeah, so first we will take a look at the question, why has FPT recently experienced a significant decline? We have seen a sharp panic-driven sell-off of FPT share recently, and this seems to be mainly due to the growing worries about the company's ability to maintain its strong earnings growth around 20% per annum recently, and as it has in the past. But on top of that, I think the drop could also link to the investor taking profits and concerns about new and low-cost AI models coming out of China. Recently, the release of DeepSeek, a cost efficiency from AI model from China, has significantly impacted the tech industry. Prior to DeepSeek release, major tech companies like Microsoft, Amazon, Meta, and Alphabet have also announced the plans to increase their capex on AI infrastructure. However, there are fears that they will revise their capex, and this has been creating uncertainties among tech companies, and I think FPT is one of them. So the uncertainties is there. However, the FPT prospect is still solid. I think it's still very solid to reflect the impact of global risk regarding technology sector. We have quantified the risk and actually just decreased the profit forecast for FPT in the next 3 years by 2% only. Despite this minor update, the cumulative average growth rate for the period 2025 to 2027 is still expected to be very solid at a bit over 20%. Many thanks to the 24% growth prospect for the next 3 years from the technology business segment. This is the segment that contributes a lot of revenue and profit to the company. Our latest updates for 2 months in 2025 also showing that FPT net profit still growing more than 21%. Besides, FPT leadership has also affirmed that this does not significantly impact the performance of FPT AI Factory, and FPT still continues to pursue its plan to develop AI factories in Japan and Vietnam, and still aiming to achieve 40 million in terms of revenues in US dollars for this particularly segment by 2025. So the second answer for the question, if FPT prospect still solid, I think is yes, and the fundamental remains very strong, and the growth is still consistent as the last 10 years. Following the forecast adjustment, we slightly decrease our target of FPT from 162,000 to around 157,000 Vietnam dong, and with still impressive upside of 23%. So about what should we take action with FPT? From our point of view, we would recommend to buy FPT on discount, and the buying strategy can be partially increasing in volume and take advantage of the discount of the stock. So that is my answer, and I hope that will clarify your question. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Tung. So let me brief his answer. So we think that FPT growth is still solid, and our update on the recent 2 months of 2025 also shows that FPT is growing at a rate of 21% year over year. So that the potential, the prospect of this company is still solid, and we think that the recent sell-off, the recent decrease of FPT is an opportunity to accumulate the stocks. And so like we can follow Warren Buffett advice: be greedy when others are fearful, right? All right, and then let's jump to the second question, Mr. Tung. Will Vietnam be directly targeted by Trump? Will Trump impose tariffs on Vietnam? Okay, Mr. Tung, please evaluate the risk.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Fu. So now let's take an in-depth analysis to this question. In my opinion, there are 3 main points regarding this question we need to discuss. Firstly, will the US impose tariff on Vietnam? And secondly, we will examine the primary goal of Trump administration tariff. And lastly, how tariff will have impacts on Vietnamese trade. So for the first question, will the US impose tariff on Vietnam? I think the answer is yes, because there are several reasons and implications behind this decision. Firstly, Vietnam, as we all know, will have a significant trade surplus with the US, meaning that it export more to the US than it imports. In 2024, this surplus was approximately about 123 billion US dollars. This large surplus makes Vietnam a prime target for tariff under the Trump trade policy, which aim to reduce the US trade deficit and protect the domestic industries. For the second part, the primary goal, what is the primary goal of the tariff? I think is to create the leverage in trade negotiations by imposing tariffs. Trump administration hopes to encourage countries like Vietnam to make concessions that benefit the US economy. Vietnam is very aware of this strategy and has been preparing for it. For instance, Vietnam has increased to import in such as like aircraft and liquefied natural gas, LNG. Additionally, Vietnam also been working to prevent transshipment where goods from other countries are routed through Vietnam to avoid tariffs. And also Vietnam has been reducing import tariffs on American goods to level the comparable to those imposed by China, Japan, South Korea, and some other ASEAN countries. This move is aimed to make the US products more competitive in the Vietnamese market and thereby balancing the trade relations. Vietnam's strategic importance to the US also play very important roles in these negotiations. By not joining groups like BRICS and being ready to be part of the US supply chain for critical materials, Vietnam positions itself as a valuable ally So this strategy alignment can help mitigate some of the negative impacts of the tariff. Now we will look at the impacts on trade. Looking ahead, it's projected that the tariff on Vietnamese goods will be around 10%, similar to those imported on other countries. While it might seem significant, but the overall impact on trade growth is expected to be manageable. Vietnam's trade with the US is still likely to continue growing, although at a slightly slower pace. Some analysts believe that Vietnam could benefit from this tariff in the long run by diversifying its export markets, enhancing its domestic industry. Vietnam can build a more resilient economy. We view the Trump potential reciprocal tariffs as more favorable than his initial universal tariff proposal because, firstly, it is likely to have limited impacts on Vietnam trade competitiveness and also allow more negotiation flexibility. For fiscal year 2025, HSE still maintain forecasts of export and imports both rising around 11%. In conclusion, I think why the imposition of tariffs by Donald Trump on Vietnamese goods is still likely. We have been actively preparing for this scenario, and through strategic imports and tariff adjustment and strengthening the roles in global supply chain, Vietnam aims to mitigate the impact and continue its trade growth with the US. So I hope this explanation can provide a clear understanding of this situation. It's a very hot topic recently. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Tung. So in brief, Vietnam will likely be imposed some tariffs from Trump. However, HSC thinks that this will open some opportunities for Vietnam to negotiate, and there are some other flexible ways for Vietnam to navigate the risk of being imposed tariffs from Trump. And also, I also want to repeat again that Vietnam has prepared for the risk of being imposed tariffs by Trump. And in 2025 and the years ahead, Vietnam economy will less rely less on export activities, and we will shift to the internal demand through the government spending, through the public investment. Okay, thanks, Mr. Tung. And there's a question on the WhatsApp community. The question for me, so I mentioned about the growth of the electricity industry due to increased demand. And what are my thoughts about PC1 stock? Okay, let me answer this question. PC1 is an interesting company. It is a market leader in transmission line and electricity EPC market. We know that PC1 has good reputation and several years of building transmission lines. So our view on PC1 is generally positive, and we think that PC1 can benefit from the growing demand of electricity consumption. However, we think that PC1 has some problems. The first problem is that PC1 is running on high leverage. They are borrowing over 2 times leverage, and most of the debt are from international bonds. They are especially over 30% of PC1 debt is in US dollar. And you know that US dollar is rising. US dollar is stronger than Vietnam dong, and US dollar is rising, especially when the State Bank of Vietnam decided to widen the volatility band for the US dollar Vietnam dong exchange rate. So PC1 will likely experience some big foreign exchange loss from their foreign debt, right? And the second problem of PC1 is that their projects are EVN's projects, and EVN is now experiencing some mild liquidity problem, and the projects are likely to be delayed. So if we compare PC1 with PVS, PVS is doing the projects for foreign clients. PVS is doing the projects for Korea, Taiwan, Singapore, and Netherlands. So these clients are more reputable, and the projects are less likely to be delayed. And also, PVS is building the Block B project for PVN. It's different from EVN. PVN financial situation is currently stronger, much stronger than EVN, and the project is being conducted quite well. So we prefer PVS than PC1. But we also hold a positive view on PC1. I just want to note that PC1 has some problem. Okay. All right. So the next question. KRX has been delayed several times. Are you sure that it will go live in May? Mr. Tung, what do you think?
Thank you, Mr. Fu. KRX has been a very hot topic in years, and I think recently the KRX system is now officially planned to go live in Vietnam in May 2025. This is also the State Securities Commission and other agencies have confirmed this timeline. That said, that the launch still depends on some finishing of the final testing and making sure that all systems are working well together. Our company HSE is also very actively in these steps, and the latest update shows 99% possibility of the May release. However, since there have been delays, the history of delays before, so I think it's still a good idea that to stay tuned for any late changes or confirmations closer to the date. That is my answer.
Okay, thanks, Mr. Tung. So let's continue discuss about KRX. So the next question about KRX is that how will the KRX trading system and potential MSCI and FTSE upgrades influence the market liquidity and valuations, particularly for VN Diamond constituents? What do you think?
I think the KRX will have an improve in the transaction and therefore increase the liquidity of the overall market. So that is the biggest impact of the KRX. There are about the FTSE and MSCI will I think will attack about 6 to 7 billion US dollars of capital inflow in Vietnamese market.
Thanks. And the next question is, which sector would benefit if a trade war broke out?
So we will come back to the trade war. This seems to be this topic is very hot today. I think we will have to group in sectors into the benefiting sectors into 3 tiers. Tier 1, they will be the biggest beneficiaries. They include that some industries that attract FDI and benefit directly from the production shifts, such as technology. Also in this group, there are sectors that enjoy equal tariff treatment like steel. In addition, industry that proactively import from the US, such as LNG and oil, are also included here. There are some company that are representative for this tier 1 group, such as like FPT, CMG, in the technologies sector. From the textile sector, there are TCM, TNG, and some steel company like HPG, as Mr. Fu has mentioned previously, HSG, NKG, and for some oil and gas company like GAS, POW, and some aircraft aviation companies like HBN and VJC. For the tier 2, there are supporting industry that benefit indirectly. That includes industrial real estate, logistics, seaports, aviation, and energy. There are some prominent company like BCB, MSN, BCM, and the tier 2, tier 3. There are some domestic consumption focused sectors that may attract investment because of the looser monetary policy, the expansionary monetary policy, and a falling interest rate environment. This group includes like consumer goods, retails, and other sectors that can expand operation under favorable financial conditions. That could be some prominent players like Vinamilk, VNM, PNJ, MWG, FRT, Masan, MCH, and some logistics company like VTP, Vitapost. Yeah. Thank you.
So there are a lot of names. Can you pick some like some biggest beneficiaries, like 3 names? Okay, so let's talk about that later. We have another question on the trade war, another scenario. So if the US imposes new tariffs on Chinese or other regional imports, which sector in Vietnam are likely to benefit or suffer the most? What do you think?
Can you repeat the question?
Yeah. So which sector in Vietnam are likely to benefit or suffer the most if the US imposes new tariffs on Chinese or other regional imports? So this is another scenario of the trade war. What do you think?
Yeah, I think we still have to acknowledge that Vietnam still face a real risk of being targeted by the US tariffs. And in many cases, the threat of tariffs is more about gaining leverage in trade negotiations to benefit the American companies. The sector that most risk are still likely some sector like agriculture, where Vietnam currently enjoy very low export tariff to the US. For example, seafood products tax just around 0 to 7%, while US goods imported into Vietnam face much higher tariffs, around 15 to 25%. Another risk comes from the price competition, which can squeeze the profit margins for Vietnamese exporters. If tariffs drive up the input costs in the U.S. American buyers, given their strong market position, may push the cost back onto the exporters by demanding lower price and rather passing through them to the cost to the consumers. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Tung. We have another question on bank sector. Are there any other banks worth investing except the three banks that you mentioned? Oh, okay. So the clients want to know any other banks except the three banks that Mr. Tin already mentioned. So as I already mentioned in the first section, we also recommend buying CTG, Vietinbank, and ACB or MBB for the public investment theme and a market upgrade theme. So there are total 6 banks: CTG, ACB, MBB, TCB, HDB, and VPB. All right. So how about you, Mr. Tung? Which bank do you think that worth investing?
Yeah, I think as you and Mr. Tin has previously mentioned in the presentation, the public investment is still one of the key trends in 2025 going forward. All state-owned companies, included state-owned banks, the so-called SOBs, are also the beneficiaries of this trend. Vietcombank, I think, is also one of the key players because it's also named by the government as one of the 7 biggest state-owned corporations to lead the country into the new era of development. And our company HS also recommends a rating for VCB with an 11% upside. Other listed SOBs are BIDV, ticker BID, with ad rating and 16% upside. And also, I very agree with you with the view of Vietinbank, ticker CTG, with the buy rating, and I think there will huge upside possibility of around 29% at this price. So all the 3 state-owned price banks are staying in the HSC research topics. So that's my answer. Thank you.
Okay. Let me give you a brief. So besides my 6 names, Mr. Tung also add 2 state-owned banks, VCB and BID. So we have total 8 banks: VCB, BID, CTG for state-owned banks, and for the private commercial banks, we have ACB, MBB, VPB, HDB, CTB. All right. So we have let's wrap up the Q&A section with one last question because the time is limited, right? So let's wrap up with one last question. Among the sectors benefiting from public infrastructure projects, such as energy construction and banking, which do you believe offers the best risk-reward ratio in 2025 and 2026? So a question about public infrastructure projects. Mr. Dong, what do you think? What do you which one do you believe will offer the best risk reward ratio in 2025, 2026? What do you think?
In my opinion, I think that there's some sector and some key players in terms of all the investment teams that you mentioned previously. But there's some players that still haven't performed yet, and there's still room to be improved and to be have an upside opportunities in 2025, such as the oil and gas sector and some manufacturing materials sector like steel, like HPG, and from the oil and gas that could be gas and POW and PVS.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Dong. So he recommends buying HPG and oil and gas, like gas, POW, and PVS. So let me add to the answer of Mr. Dong. I personally believe that these two names that I already highlight during the first section, HPG and PVS will bring the most appealing risk-reward ratio. Why? Because HPG is now having a lot of short-term and mid-term as well as long-term catalysts to support the stock price, and we also recommend buying HPG at an upside of 42.5%. So it is a very appealing upside for HPG. And how about PVS? So PVS is now trading at the market capitalization of $15,000 billion. So around $600 million. And you know what? While the market price of the stock is 33, the net cash per share is already 29. Net cash per share of PVS is already 29. When the market price of the stock is 33. So we have a very limited downside for PVS, and the upside is 32.4%. So we think that PVS will offer you a 1-to-4 risk-reward ratio, very appealing risk-reward ratio. So that last question wraps up our Q&A section, and we want to say thank you for joining us today. And together we have already discussed and uncovered the investment opportunities in the Vietnam stock market in 2025 and 2026. So if you want to, if you have any further questions that has not been answered, please join our community. Please join our community. Ask questions in the community, or send your email to us, and we will answer later. And we also want to give you more details on specific stocks and more updates on the stocks that we mentioned today. So please join our community on LinkedIn and WhatsApp and stay updated. And if you want to open an account and start investing in Vietnam stock market, please contact our account manager, or you can scan the QR code if you are Vietnamese citizen to open the stock investment account. Thank you again for attending the seminar today, and we hope that you will invest successfully and happily in Vietnam stock market. And see you again in the next seminar. Thank you and goodbye.